This video is going to be mostly about worksheet 7.6, but first I wanted to talk about number 20 from the mixed review. So number 20 mixed review, it's on page 410 if you want to go look it up. This is the diagram that we have, and we're supposed to solve for x and y. So the first thing I want to point out is that we have a 90-degree triangle. We know that this angle is 60, which means that this angle has to be 30, which gives us a 30, 60, 90-degree triangle. So we are back with the same formula that we have had to use quite a bit in the last few lessons. And that formula states that the hypotenuse of one of these triangles is 2 times the short leg, okay, and the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. We can use that to solve for x and y. We're given the length for the long leg, so let's start with this formula on the bottom here since we have that number. So 20, we can just plug it in, equals short leg times the square root of 3. So we need to reduce that by dividing both sides by 3. So 20 divided by the square root of 3 equals short leg times the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3, which then cancels out this. So I'm going to move up here. 20 over the square root of 3 is the short leg, but we can never leave a square root on the bottom. It's an invalid number. So to turn 20 times the square root of 3 into a valid number, we take 20 over the square root of 3 times square root of 3 over the square root of 3, which is technically just the number 1. Anytime you have the same on the top and the bottom of a fraction, it's just 1. So it's not going to change the value, but it's going to change how it's written. So when we do that, we take 20 times the square root of 3, that'll be on the top. And on the bottom, when we take a square root times the square root of the same number, it's just the whole number. So square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. So this is going to be our short leg. So I'm going to put 20 times the square root of 3 over 3. That's x. Okay? Now that we know x, which is the short leg, we can figure out the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is 2 times the short leg, which is 20 times the square root of 3 over 3. Now, what I'm going to do to make this a little easier is just to turn this into a fraction as well, 2 over 1. So I can take the top times the top, bottom times the bottom, so 2 times 20 times the square root of 3 is 40 times the square root of 3, and 1 times 3 is 3. Let me make sure I got that right. Yep. So y is 40 times the square root of 3 over 3. And that's how you do number 20. Hopefully that helps a little bit. So with worksheet 7.6, I'm going to talk about 4 through 9. Now these could have had several answers, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood the terminology though. So the first thing, we have this diagram of a circle, something like this. And it says to identify 2 major arcs. Remember, major arcs just mean it's bigger than a semicircle. A semicircle is half of the circle. So the arc has to be bigger than half the circle. So one example of a major arc would be from, let's see, A to F. That would be a major arc. So we could say arc A, we can just pick 3 points, ADF is an example of a major arc. Now a minor arc is exactly what you would think it would be. It's less than a semicircle, so it can't be more than a semicircle. It's to be less. Okay, if I can get this marker. Okay, so an example of a minor arc would be, there's lots of examples here, but let's say from D to F. We'll say that's our minor arc. So minor arc would be D, E, F. There's an example there. Okay, semicircle is exactly half of the circle. So a semicircle example would be, let's see, from F to B. So arc FAB is a semicircle. A pair of adjacent arcs. Adjacent arcs are side by side. So let's say, there's also lots of those, but we can say pair of adjacent arcs. So let's say B to D and D to E are adjacent arcs. They share one side. Acute central angle. An acute central angle is an angle within the circle whose vertices form an acute angle. So we can say this angle is acute. So angle ACB is an acute central angle. The only thing other than it being acute that it needs to have to be an acute central angle is that this point on the angle has to be at the center of the circle, which is true for all of these angles. So you could have picked any of these angles that were acute. And an obtuse central angle also has to have the point at the middle of the circle, but it has to be obtuse. So we can say this angle is obtuse, so let's say angle FCD. Like I said, there could be lots of answers. Not every answer is correct, but each question had multiple answers that you could come up with, so I just wanted to go over that real quick. Okay, and the last one I wanted to talk about for now is number 23. So you have a circle diagram, something like this, and it asks you to find the length of arc FH, which is from here around to here. So we need to find how long that is. Now, if you think about it, what we need to do is find the complete diameter of this circle, this complete diameter, and figure out what percent of that diameter is that part of the circle going to cover. So to do that, we have a formula. The length of arc FH is the measure of FH, as in the angle on the inside that measures it, divided by 360. That'll give us what percent of the circle we're measuring, times 2 pi r. Okay, so let's start with this. We know that this is 90 degrees and this is 45. So to get the measure of arc FH, we just need to add that together. So that's going to be 90 plus 45 is 135 divided by 360 times 2 pi r over 1. I like to do that so that it matches up as you go along. Alright, so we need to know the radius. They give it to us right here, 3 meters. From here to here, that's the radius. So I'm going to just bring this up over here. Hopefully you can see it there. Okay. 135 over 360 times 2 pi times 3. Okay. So you can bring that down and figure, it wants us to leave it, let's see, what does it say? We don't have to calculate the pi, we can leave the pi alone is what it says. So let's take 135 times 2 times 3. I need to use my calculator for this one. To simplify this, I don't know, 135 times 2 times 3, okay, 810. So I'm taking 135 times 2 times 3 for the top number, so 810 pi divided by 360. Alright, so we need to just simplify that. That's technically the answer, but we need to simplify it. So let's see what we can do. 810 divided by 2 is 405. 360 divided by 2 is 180. Okay, let's go even further. Let's do 405 divided by 5 and 180 divided by 5. Okay, 81 over 36. Let's take 81 divided by 9. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So the answer is going to be 9 pi over 4. You might have done it a different way than that, but I tried to do it the long way so that you could see as I was going what was going on. Breaking it down, just breaking down the fraction to its lowest form, because it asks for it in pi form. You don't have to actually calculate it out. So anyway, 9 pi over 4 is the answer. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Good luck with your assignment today. Remember that you can always contact me if you need help with anything. And make sure if you have a problem that you want to see worked out in one of these videos, if you put it in the form for that says difficult problems, I always try to include those problems in these videos. So you'll probably get a video if you write it down there. All right, thank you.